Well, here it is, the second beta for Wuthering Waves, and a lot's changed since the last beta that I also played in. Their initial dev post mentioned they changed a ton of the scenery, they changed the character designs, and they apparently redid 90% of the entire story. So, is Wuthering Waves going to be the new Genshin? Or is it going to be the new Tower of Fantasy? In this video, I'll talk about so far my first impressions about the game after a 16-hour binge session, and some of the key differences and issues I see, especially compared to Genshin. Let's first talk about the story. I'll be honest, I find it hard for a gacha story to actually interest me, and I'm really picky. I didn't really like Genshin's story at all, but this game doesn't have Paimon, so it must be better, right? So far, not really a huge fan. It has characters talking in really verbose ways, similar to Genshin, and tons of terms to understand. Only having Chinese dub in the beta doesn't affect me too much, but the story itself just wasn't very interesting to me. Take a look at this one cutscene where we go from capturing a guy, to a fight, to a flashback, to a questioning, to a phone call with like 100 in-game buzzwords thrown around and lots of pointless sentences. A lot of it felt contrived, and some of the characters such as Scar just were ridiculous, although maybe you like him. Still, sometimes stories can take time to get really good and up and running. So when you compare Genshin's 1.0 story to its 4.0, it's night and day, right? But hey, story isn't exactly my forte after all. Next, let's talk about the graphics. Including scenery and character changes, overall huge improvements in both categories. Scenery is way less bland than before, and areas are way more varied with colors. Compared to Genshin, its colors are much darker, and some may say bland. However, I like it being less bright. It's reminiscent of Tower of Fantasy's theme of futuristic mixed with Genshin, but much higher quality overall, I think. Characters have pretty good detail, and a bit more actual, character to their designs rather than a super bland, colorless NPC-looking unit. That said, they still can feel fairly basic. Genshin characters, while having less detail, have much better designs overall, and every character has a certain purpose and theme. While I like the muted colors in Wuthering Waves, the designs lack some extra flair that would make them more enticing. That said, the husbandos in this game crap on the ones in Genshin in my opinion. Now, let's talk about some of the issues I have with the game. First, I know it's a beta, but did they even test like half the dialogue in the game? I kept running into characters speaking in some sort of eldritch tongue, or just dialogue missing, or all sorts of just weird stuff or untranslated things from Chinese. However, joking aside, I think one of my largest issues with the game is I think they hard nerfed a lot of the bosses from the previous beta. Previously really difficult bosses such as Crownless, who's the first tutorial boss, now can just kind of be juggled for a third of his health bar like some sort of trash mob. Crownless indeed. Every time you evade, then attack, you do this special stagger kind of attack, and you interrupt their attack string, making it lower the value of parrying a lot as well. I don't really know why they decided to do this, but I think it really hurts some of the combat. Secondly, I feel they copied way too much from Genshin. I understand that this is a Genshin copy. We all understand this. No one's lying to themselves saying that this is nothing to do with Genshin. But did you really have to copy garbage like their battle pass having daily missions instead of weekly like Honkai Star Rail, or opening chests has the loot spill all over and you have to pick it up like some sort of slave, or the same exact stamina refill time and 50-50 pull system, or numerous other things that could use quality of life even in that game that you copied over to this game? I find Wuthering Waves to have improvements in multiple areas over Genshin, but when deriving your game from another, shouldn't you try to upgrade as much as you can? Anyways, let's move on to the good things. Well, the combat's amazing. A lot of characters feel like they have unique styles and passives that make them really different to play. The combat's super smooth and snappy. Honestly, I think you would have to lie to yourself to say Genshin has better combat. It just really doesn't. Parrying feels amazing, and the faster pace of the game and the more dodges you do make you feel that dopamine rush more often in fights and make learning fights feel way more rewarding overall. Another really cool thing they added is these insanely difficult elite fights. You'll just be walking around minding your own business and bam, you'll see a red name in Chinese and it'll be like level 90 when you're level 20. I've seen up to level 110 so far, and these fights are crazy hard but really fun to do. I was actually able to take down one level 85 boss, and it mostly relies on just constantly landing parries and perfecting it because the moment you get hit, you die. Also, the ecosystem so far in the game seems amazing. You can farm for gear essentially without using any sort of stamina, and the unique attacks are really fun to test and see which ones you enjoy. It's kind of like Pal World or catching Pokemon. This alone adds a lot of depth to the game overall. No longer are we dumping our energy like 5 times for gear, getting complete garbage, and then logging out because there's really nothing else to do. I really like farming for gear, and I love the idea of having more opportunities for drops. Next, let's talk about the gacha system. Although I'm not a fan of Genshin's pull system, as I think it's probably one of the most predatory I've ever seen in a more popular game, I'm glad that Wuthering Waves has improved upon it and increased the individual pull rate from 0.6% to 0.8%, which is still not that great, but I believe that's a 33% increase. And they also lowered the pity to 80 from 90 pulls. They also seem to have a way to buy dupes of characters in the shop, which makes it possible to obtain over a long period of time for characters you really like. All in all, this is just my initial impressions of the game in its current second beta state. I'm really enjoying it a ton. I'm looking forward to another 16-hour binge session of it tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you next time.